start our show. I'm so excited to introduce our first set of panelists for the first half of the Explicit show. Let's have Delana DeBrinket come on up, and we'll have the ladies start over here. Give her a hand, yes. Gabrielle Sellier. I don't know if I said her last name. Did I say your last name right? How do you say it? Seiler. Gabrielle Seiler. And on this side, we have Tiago Rodriguez. Give him a hand. And Alexis Vasquez. Come on up. All right. So I'm going to take a few minutes with each one of them to allow them to tell you a snippet of their story. Like I said, each one of them filled out an inquiry, so we know a little bit about them. And they're going to give you more information, and then we're going to do a Q&A after they each speak about themselves. So what I know about Alex is I met him 2 years ago when he was a teacher at Purpose Academy. Are all the mics on, Isaiah?
Yes.
Okay. There you go.
Hello.
So just so you guys know, once I, turn it over to you to speak, you have 5 minutes. And I know it's hard to condense your snippet of your story, get all the high points, but at 5 minutes, I'm gonna go land the plane, and then we're gonna go, thank you so much, we'll get back to you in Q&A, and then we're gonna move on and on.
Perfect.
So who can be our timekeeper back there? Laura, maybe can that be you? Put your timer on? All right, 5 minutes. So Alex, you want me to hold your stuff, or you're good?
Sure.
Or I could give you this table right next to you.
Perfect.
Yes, perfect.
Perfect. You always gotta have a notebook.
Yes.
At least I do.
There you go.
Thank you.
All right, so take it away, Alex.
Hello. My name is Alexis Vasquez. I graduated high school in 2006. In 2007, I got hit by a car because I took my girlfriend at the time out to dinner at the beach right over here. So while we were crossing the street to go back to my car, a car hit us both. My girlfriend broke several broken bones, as did I. However, my condition was more critical. I was instantly unconscious and I wasn't breathing. All the paramedics, EMTs, firefighters, just everybody that arrived at the scene, they thought that I was dead. As soon as they realized that I was not dead, they thought that I was going to die very, very soon. We were both sent to our local trauma center, and then from there, I was sent to another hospital that specializes in traumatic brain and spinal cord injuries because I suffered a severe traumatic brain injury. I was in a coma for 3 months. So I had to learn to walk, had to learn to talk, had to learn to be independent, completely independent. I was like a baby, an infant, but I was already 20 years old. I graduated from high school like a year before, so I was already older. It was in that time when God became real to me, became exactly who I needed to be. So I pray that my story not only motivates you, because I realized that I was able to walk and was able to, even though at the time it didn't seem like it, but I was able to realize that God gave me the strength, and I was able to move my legs and my feet, and I was like, all right, so let's do it. So I pray not only does it motivate you to move beyond what you think your limits are, it gives you the capacity to influence others, because that's what my goal is, to allow other people to realize that their life is not over. Thank you.
Alex, that was awesome, but you do have another minute, so can you just elaborate, what was the hardest thing to overcome? Like, how did you overcome? Give us one tip of what did that look like?
One tip.
Yeah.
Okay, so, if you give me a second. I was kind of expecting this for Q&A, but one tip. Okay, so, Tony Robbins, I was listening to Tony Robbins. Who doesn't listen to Tony Robbins? So he likes to say, if you like to move, if you want to improve and progress in your relationships, your career, whatever, there are 3 P's you have to overcome. 3 P's. The first one is that you have to realize your problem is not permanent. Your problem is not permanent. So yeah, you're suffering something, but you can overcome it. So your problem is not permanent. The next problem is pervasive. You have to realize that because it's raining outside doesn't mean that the day is horrible. One thing doesn't lead to another. You have to meet each challenge as it comes. Finally, you have to realize that you shouldn't take things personal. Because when I realized that I was not the only person that was suffering, that I was not the only person that thought my world was over, I realized, like, okay, all right, let's influence others. Because I thought my world was over when I was not able to walk. And I thought my world was over when I was not able to talk. But when I realized, like, okay, I can learn to do this, it wasn't easy, not easy one bit. But when I realized that other people think that their world is over because they're trying to quit smoking, but they always grab another cigarette at the last second. Their world is not over. They just have to realize, like, you can stop, you can stop, you can stop, but you have to, like, motivate yourself.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex, so much. All right. Let's hear from Tiago.
Hi guys, my name is Tiago. I came here today to hopefully inspire someone and give people hope, because I remember when I was sitting in those chairs and I just felt hopeless, like I couldn't chase after my dreams. So in order to like fully understand how I felt hopeless, I want to share a story of my past. I came from a broken home with no mom or dad. I was in homelessness. My dad left when I was 4. The day I was born, my mom got in a serious car accident and she had to go to the hospital, and I had to get cut out of her stomach a month earlier. I was gonna die. And that was the day that doctors prescribed her Oxycontin. So the day I was born was the day my mom became a drug addict. And what that looked like for me was poverty. It was no AC, it was no power, it was no food, it was no light, it was just hard. It was a lot harder than a lot of people have it right now. So I just remember sitting there hopeless that I couldn't chase after my dreams. And more about my life, by the time I was 12, like I stopped living with my mom because she was going in and out of rehab so much that I started bouncing around other homes. By the time I was 14, I started working full time because I had to get my own food and pay my own bills. Like I was forced at a very young age to take accountability and to mature. Yeah. By 17, I was homeless again, and Jeff and Andrea took me into their house and raised me as their own child. And in that moment, I dedicated my life and I said, I will not go back to where I was. I will do everything I can in my power to come out of that poverty and chase after my dreams. By 18, I worked so hard, I was managing Chipotle's and restaurants. And by 21, I bought a house. And here I am today, 25. I own 2 businesses. I'm about to buy my second house. My startup company made over $900,000, and the restaurant I bought made over. So I'm 25. I $1.1 million in revenue for myself, not for myself, for my businesses. But when I was sitting there broke and like just worried, making $10 an hour, I had no idea I would be able to be here at 25. And there's nothing special about me. I didn't have any special talents. I didn't go to college. I dropped out at 9th grade just to work more. I didn't have like a singing voice or a football talent. I didn't know what I wanted to be. I just knew I wanted to make money and like have a family and be able to be free and present for my family. So I just want to like encourage you guys that no matter where you're at, you can definitely obtain your dreams. It just takes a lot of hard work and dedication.
Wow.
I
Thank
still
you.
have 2 minutes.
Thank you for sharing all that. Gabrielle, we'd love to hear your story.
Hi, I'm Gabrielle. I thought it was on. Can you hear me? Okay. Well, I met the Hazims when I came to TLT last year in the summertime, so I haven't been around that long. But I came out of a divorced home, and I wasn't really raised super one way or the other about religion. Kind of just grew up lost and distracted. I can't say that my story is nearly as inspiring as your guys's or as powerful, but I definitely grew up with a lot of like just confusion, and I didn't know where I was going, just kind of lost. And I didn't have any clear path to get anywhere or to do anything with my life. And even though I've been brought up in a home with tremendous blessings, there's also a lot of minute complications and hard to describe, like, challenges that come along with that. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. Everybody's family has that. And so when I was younger, I just kind of latched on to nothing. It was either nothing or whatever was floating by. So in high school, my parents got divorced when I was 13, and we moved. We moved across the county. I didn't really know anybody, but I wasn't that worried about it. I was like, okay, I'm just going to do my little drawings and keep my head down. But, you know, I started hanging out with some people who did some stuff that I wasn't used to, and they introduced me to different types of drugs, and so I started to do everything that I wanted to do that nobody was going to tell me I couldn't. And that kind of changes the way your brain thinks. So I was probably smoking pot every day for 6 or 7 years. I started when I was 13 or 14, and it kind of changed the way I thought. It made me a lot more susceptible to other things. So after, you know, doing that for a couple years, I kind of fell into just like the social media stuff, like where I couldn't get off of the internet. I was terminally online. Somebody said that the other day, and I thought that was really funny. And it really influenced the way I thought about the world, politics, anything. So I took a worldview that was really not good for myself or others, and it was very kind of hedonistic and nihilistic. Like, I didn't care about anything. I didn't want to die, but I could die. I was kind of indifferent about anything. I couldn't trust anything. I felt like I couldn't believe anything I heard, so I just kind of was like, well, I'll just live in my smoked out bubble until something happens. I don't know. So then I turn slowly, like, that nothingness turned to gravitating towards, like, well, I need some sort of community. And the LGBT is where I found that, and the community there. The people were so open and friendly, and they thought like I thought. They acted like I acted. They wanted what I wanted, which was just to be amongst a group and to have a doctrine of sorts. So that's where I found myself. And then slowly, bisexuality turned to lesbianism, turned to gender confusion, and like it doesn't come with mental clarity or wellness. I'll just put it that way. So I was really getting lost in that whole thing, and kind of I felt like trauma had led me there, and I didn't think I had a way out. So, but then, you know, time passed, and I had an encounter with Jesus Christ, and everything changed, and the scales have been removed, and I have a community and a solid foundation that I can lean on and stand on, and I don't have to worry about that form of deception. And God is healing me day by day, so I'm so grateful.
Well, thank you. All right, Miss Delana.
Hello, my name is Delana. I am 22 years old. I'm newly married, and it took a lot of self-growth to get to that point where I could be married, because there was a while there where, even though my entire life I knew that I was going to be an amazing mother, an amazing wife, there was a large period of time through my teens and early 20s where I decided that I probably was never going to get married. And this was because at the age of 14, I dove headfirst into the LGBT life, and I was filled with so much guilt and shame that I started smoking weed every single day to just kind of get out of my own head, and so I didn't feel the way that I was feeling. And this went on all throughout high school and college, where these were my friends, this was my community. I stopped playing lacrosse, which I loved playing sports all throughout my life, but I would rather go hang out with my girlfriend and smoke weed in her garage than go to practice when it was, cold and, exercise. And so I lived that life for a very long time, and I never felt comfortable in my own skin. I never liked myself. I always assumed that people were shaming me. I always assumed that no one would accept me, even though everyone around me was like, hey, we love you, no matter what decisions you make. I always assumed that they were lying because I didn't accept me, and I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. I knew that it was not the lifestyle that I wanted or that God wanted for me, and it wasn't until I came home from college in 2020 because the pandemic hit. And my brother had introduced me to someone that had gone through the same thing that I went through, but was given a different perspective on it. And so, for a little bit of background, when I was 14 and I started having these feelings, everyone around me was like, oh, you were born this way. This is who you are. This is now your entire identity. You are now a gay person. This is exactly how God made you. You should love and accept yourself. And that was always really hard for me, but that was all that was told to me throughout all those years. It was like, you should be proud of who you are. You know, you should be prideful of how you're feeling. And it wasn't until I had met this friend of my brother's that kind of told me a different perspective on it, of how this is just another temptation that is thrown at you. This is another worldly desire that you're given, that you can choose to not go down that path. And I had never heard that before. Everyone had always told me, like, oh, you can't choose to be gay. It's just who you are. And then getting this second perspective of, oh, it is a choice, just like you can choose to not eat a dozen donuts every day. Like, you can choose to not have the gluttony. Yes, it feels amazing. Oh my gosh, I love that sugar high. But that doesn't need to be who you are. You don't need to choose to be an obese person that eats fast food every single day. It doesn't need to be your entire identity. And so that was just a completely different perspective I had never heard before. And it kind of really opened my eyes to how I have the choice to live the life that I know that God has for me, and I don't need to be tempted other ways. I don't need to be living my life the way that the world believes that I was born this way. This is how I should be living my life. Like, don't you want to be cool? Everyone's doing it, you know, all those phrases or whatever that everyone uses. But so that was a big eye-opener for me, and I was able to get through it, of course, with the grace of God being able to change my heart and direct me in those ways. It took a lot of work and several years of choosing the path I wanted to go on and then falling into temptation again and again. It was not an overnight transformation. It took a long time, but I was able to meet the man that I'm now married to and fall in love and let him in. And and just live the life that I know that God had intended for me. Because as I said before, I always wanted to be a mother, and I just can't help but think, like, man, my kids must be awesome for the devil to be trying to stop them from happening over and over and over again. Like, they're gonna change the world. And so that was a different perspective I was able to have on it, of just these are just hurdles that I had to go through. And now I'm able to share my story to maybe help some other people that are feeling the same way and don't know what to do about it.
Praise God.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so we're gonna have to borrow one of your mics, so if a question comes to you, I don't need it, you can hold that. So if a question comes to you and you don't have a mic, just reach out. I'm just gonna put this over here, Alex. Oh, you don't need it anymore?
No, I mean, I do, but
Oh, no, it's fine. Okay, so now we have a little section of Q&A, and you don't need to raise your hand with questions, because if you RSVP'd and you submitted your questions, we have your questions right here. So, yeah, we're excited to do that. We're gonna go back and forth, Daya and I. Do you have a question you want to start out with?
I do. So we're going to start with you, Alex. This is about career. What did you want to be when you were a kid versus what you do for a living now, and how did your injury affect that?
wow, great question. Thank you so much. Let me first say that is incredible. That was incredible from all of you. Incredible. Each testimony shows the power and greatness of our God. So, as a kid, I always wanted to be a producer. That's what I did. My mother was the best piano player in Cuba.
Wow.
I just always grew up in music. I wanted to be a producer. I knew that at a young age because my mother was always practicing and playing at churches and whatnot. So I knew I was always with the sound and setting up all the equipment. So I wanted to be a producer, or the actual term is like a gaffer, start off as a gaffer. Like that tape, that's called gaff tape. So that's the stuff that I did. Like, I put it all everywhere. The speakers up, everything. So I wanted to be a producer. And then When I was 20, I got hit by a car, as I said. And the music, my mother played piano, I played the drums, played the guitar. As long as it vibrated, I played it. I made a song with it. I worked in a recording studio. So as long as it vibrated, I would have figured out how to make a melody with it. I got hit by a car. I couldn't move my arms, my legs, I couldn't move anything. I was, basically, they thought I was paralyzed. So music was gone. I couldn't do music. So I had to figure out how I can figure something out. I had to do something. So and then I started going to my church. They have a media team. So I was like, oh, I love media. I did music. I worked in a recording studio. So I know I'm very familiar with the equipment. They're like, oh, well, we have a television ministry and program and stuff. Come to the studio and let me see what you can do. So I went to the studio a couple times. I saw like, oh, I wasn't joking. Like, I actually know like where this cable should go and what this light does and stuff. So they're like, all right. So they allowed me to keep coming back. Fast forward now, I want to say 10 years. I'm not doing production as a profession because I'm not as good as the 20-year-old because I'm going to be honest. The worst part of my brain affected was the brainstem. The brainstem and cerebellum. Your cerebellum controls things that you don't initially have control of. It controls things like your breathing, your heart rate. You do have control over that, but you got to work towards it. You got to eat right. Your brainstem, on the other hand, controls your nerves and muscles. So as a result, I shake. You guys probably all see me shaking now because I'm talking. I'm nervous. So I shake. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I wouldn't trust myself with half of this equipment with the shakes. I mean, they gave me a camera back there. I was like, are you sure? Are you sure? I was like, all right.
So Alex, just to get you to direct that a little bit, I love this question for you because I know there's people out there who maybe their dream was to be a sports player and they had an injury. And oh my gosh, my whole vision for my future is down the drain. Now what? And then you get in a rut and you go, and you get lost. But you are an amazing overcomer story. It didn't matter that you didn't want to be an athlete or whatever. You had a dream and you had to pivot. So
big pivot.
Right, a big pivot. And we're so blessed that you're here today. And I know, talk a little bit about what your vision is for you as a speaker and a motivator. And, that's very important that God, maybe, everything happens for a reason, right?
Everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. And if it doesn't happen, it's for a reason, like you're not meant to do that. Or the biggest turning point in my testimony happened because I read the Bible a lot. Like I'm always reading, like I carry with me now. So I'm always reading. The biggest turning point in my testimony was when I read Job. Job is my favorite book of the Bible because he was a rich, wealthy man, like, normal, rich, wealthy. But then he lost everything, everything. He had like a big illness and the devil was like, I'm going after you. And God said, okay, you can do it. You can do it. God, the devil asked God, can I go after your servant Job? He said, yeah. So he did. Even though he did all that, Job worshiped God even harder. His life completely became even more wealthy. He had the most beautiful children. It was incredible. What the devil meant for evil, God turned to good. Yeah. Right? And then my turning point was when I read Job 40:36, where it says, Job answered the Lord. He said, I am unworthy. So like all these people here, they said, I'm just a normal person. I was just doing what everyone else was doing. But I fell into this. Or my man, he's like, I was just, I'm not special, which is true. I'm not special at all. I'm just unworthy. But it wasn't until I said, God, I'm your vessel. Fill me. Let me be that person that helps. Then life turned around.
Wow, what a testimony. Give him a hand. Amazing, right? Okay. Well, let's see. So, Gabrielle.
Yes.
What advice would you give somebody who feels the way you felt in those years of maybe feeling uncomfortable in your own skin? I mean, put it in your own words, but confused about their gender, and now you're seeing it from a different perspective. Like, back to your younger self. Dear younger me, I wish I knew this then.
That reality is objective and not changeable. I couldn't.
Explain that.
Okay, so I couldn't pick whatever I wanted. I wanted to be a man. I wanted to not be a woman. There's a huge wave of this going on in our generation right now, but I didn't realize that that was not up to me to choose that, even to choose the other gender to be attracted to. It didn't always feel like a choice, but I was letting it, continue. Same thing. I used to be 250 pounds, and I was allowing that to happen. That didn't happen to me. I made the choices that led me there. So, like Delana was saying, you can choose to direct yourself in another path. So, when I got saved, my sister prayed over me, and I did not want to hear it. I was like, I'm gay, I'm all this stuff. I don't want to hear your Bible thumping. Get this out of my face. But she asked me to pray for her one night, or to pray for me, pray over me one night. She didn't make me do anything. I just sat there. And after that, something clicked. I realized that the Bible was not written by man, that God supernaturally gave this book to humankind to learn what we need to do, where we need to go, where we came from, and why everything's like this. So that my turning point, I guess I would say to somebody who's confused and feels like they're in the wrong body or God didn't choose right for them, is that yes, he did. And you have to trust over the feelings that you feel that yes, God made you exactly who he made you, when he made you. You're made for such a time as this. And if you're having these feelings, I learned that that's part of my testimony to share for other people who are feeling like this. And that is what we do with this stuff now. Now that Alex went through his accident, he can share with other people who are going through the same thing. So trusting in the objective reality that God made. The systems of gender that he made are true and they work. It's like perverting it, well, that's a strong word to most people, but to me that just means not used the correct way. So I was perverting my gender by trying to be like a man. I was never going to be a man. I think when that clicked in my head, it was around the same time I was getting saved. All this stuff was kind of happening at the same time. The scales were removed. And kind of just realizing and trusting, okay, I don't feel good about this. I don't feel good about my body. I don't feel good about my societal role. I don't feel like I want to ever give birth or have children. But I trust you, God. I just trust that this is how you made me. You made me a woman for a reason, that there's a purpose for me to be this way. And to just kind of surrender my feelings about it. Just lay it down and be like, okay, I feel this way, but it's not like the end all be all. These things change every day, so I'm just going to give it up. And that is what I would say to somebody who's struggling with this. Just lean not on your own understanding and let the Lord guide your path.
That was a super duper prayer your sister prayed over you. Because you had some massive revelations just like that.
It was while I was
Amazing.
sitting there, I was like,
that's
okay, so the
amazing.
Bible's real. I trust it. That's the word of God. Wow.
That's a miracle.
I was
Total
an
miracle.
atheist 3 months earlier.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought?
Wow. I wish everybody gets that revelation that quick. Dea, you have any follow-up questions, or maybe for Tiago? Or
Okay, so Tiago, your question is, what should you do if you have no money and want to start a business?
Well, you need money to start a business. You need money to make money. I found that out very early on, that all the richest people, their money's making them money. They're not working and spending their time for money. So unfortunately, you need money to start a business. If you can't find people to invest in you and believe in you, start small, start saving up your money with the purpose to buy something to start a business. Even something as small as flipping shoes, you still need a couple $100 to buy the shoes and sell it for more. So I
That's
think
a good point. So with that, what advice would you give them for getting a good job?
Or how did you do it? How'd you get started?
Well, I mean, you guys know I came from poverty. For me, it was a lot different. There was a fire under my butt saying, I am not going back to that. I do not want to experience that ever again. So at 15, all the way up until 22, there was not a week in my life where I didn't work overtime.
So that's 7 years. of
Yeah,
grind.
if the job that I had that was paying good didn't want to give me over 40 hours a week, I was working another job. I didn't, like I didn't have rich parents. I didn't have mom or dad money. I didn't have some special talent or a college job that I wanted. It was, all I knew is that in order to make money, I needed money. So from that age all the way to 21, I was saving every penny I had towards buying a house. It was very intentional. It was not easy. If all my friends know me as a Jew, because like I wasn't going out eating dinner with them, I wasn't going to the mall with them, I wasn't doing all these things because I was broke, and every penny I had needed to go towards that. It was either do or die for me. I don't expect you guys to have that passion because you didn't experience the things I did, but you don't need a special job. I was working in a restaurant and I bought a house as a cook or a manager.
But you were able to tell yourself no.
Yeah, well, I
No
wanted
stuff.
that so bad that it was like a $20 meal or a house. It was like not even a comparison anymore.
Delayed gratification is on point.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Delana, what would you tell a young person entering college about what I call the common culture experience on the campus?
Whew, good question. I fell hard into the common culture experience on the college campus, especially with experimentation. I'd say is the number one thing that you're going to see on a college campus, where it's not just normalized, but it's encouraged. Saying if you go to college, you have to experiment. You got to have the true college experience and sleep around. You got to, oh, you haven't kissed a girl yet? You're in college. Experiment. You should do that. You should see if you like it.
I've heard the term college gay.
Yeah, that's a very common term.
I've heard
I'm
that
college
term.
gay, where while I'm here, I'm just going to try everything, see what I like, but I know I'm straight, but I'm going to try it anyway. That is
So that's a thing.
it's a very common thing in college, and it's at the end of the day, when it comes to like experimentation and stuff, especially like if you know for a fact, not even for a fact, but if you're kind of sure that you're straight and you don't need to test it out, don't, because it's only going to make you more confused. Because we have all these neurons and sensors and everything, nerves in our body that feel good when you're touched and everything like that. And so, like, if you try all these different things, it just leaves all your options open. And then you're sitting here and you've now met an amazing guy and you're like, oh man, but when I was in college, I liked kissing that girl, so maybe I'm gay. Maybe I shouldn't get married to this amazing guy that's going to give me an amazing life, because what if I want to kiss a girl again? Like, because I had that experience. It's like what Dr. Jeff says. It just leads to so much more confusion. Like what Dr. Jeff says, freedom is having no other option. I see that, like, what I get from that phrase, which some of you might know that phrase, some of you don't, but what I see is when you have all these options open, you're so much more confused. No matter what you choose, you're never going to be truly happy because you have all these other options that you could have chose, and it's like, what if? Just you have that constant what if in your brain. While if you only have one option, if you know what path you're going down, you're not thinking about every other option in the world. If you only use DVDs, you're not going to spend 3 hours scrolling through Netflix trying to find something to watch. It's like, okay, I can either watch The Lion King for the 80th time, or hey, baby, let's switch it up. Like, let's watch this other movie I've only seen 60 times. It's like, you know, you have the smaller options, and it just makes life easier to go through.
So, and what would be an upside of going to college? I don't want to paint a picture like going to college is, you're going to be destroyed. You have to be strong, obviously, in your identity, knowing who you are, why you're there. Mm-hmm. But, what were maybe some of the benefits?
Well, I dropped out of college after a year.
And became an entrepreneur.
Well, one thing that's like it's kind of a different answer, whatever, but if you're trying to decide whether you want to go to college or not, think, do I know exactly what I want to do? Have I shadowed someone that has my dream job, and am I like, yes, that is the job that I want. I'm going to go to college to get this degree, so I'm better educated to do that job. Go to college. That's a great idea. Like, go get that degree, go get your dream job. If you're going into college thinking, I have no idea what I want to do, maybe I'll figure it out in the 4 years that I'm there, waste of time and waste of money. Like, college is useful to not just get a degree, but further your education in the subject that you want to be smarter in, that you want to know more about. And yes, it's fun. You get to experience the freedom of not living with your parents. But guess what? Rent, even nowadays, is cheaper than college tuition. You can experience the freedom of living by yourself by going and getting a job, even if it's not the dream job that you want, if it's a way to work your way up to that dream job. Go try it out. Go try it out.
And I would even add to that, any job you have, even as a teenager, you can consider that job like a paid internship. You're getting paid to be there and learn. That's the way I always looked at it. And like Delana said, go shadow somebody. If you're thinking about going to college, or you're even in college, a lot of times people change their majors midstream because you're not sure. Or they finish and they get out and they go, why did I get this degree? I don't even like this. Or I got the job and I'm in it, I'm like, this isn't what I thought. So go try it out. You could always find somebody to shadow, always. If you can't, call me. I like to help young people and open doors for them and get them in places where maybe they couldn't have gotten before. But test it out before you invest the time, the money, and of course, you want to know, why are you on the planet? A big part of TLT is knowing your identity and your purpose. So if you think, oh, I want to do this thing because I'm going to make a lot of money, that's not necessarily aligned with your purpose. Maybe you were made for this thing over here, but it's not in your awareness yet. Right. Maybe you haven't tried it out, and there's no rush, right? So great answer, Delana. And so do you have another question, maybe?
Yeah, so you all filled out a form, correct? And there was one where it said, this really stood out to me, and it was, Tiago, you said, gaming was my escape. To be in another world. It helped me forget about Tiago and all his pain because I was living in another world. Could you touch on this was the most powerful, but I think, how you mentioned how self-harm and depression stemmed from a lack of vision. Once you got vision, though, that went away. Can you elaborate on that?
Good question.
So, given where I came from, I was just so hopeless. My dream is just to be the best husband and best father that I can, because I never had that for my life. And that to me looked like being present with my kids every single day, being able to take them on vacations, and just for them and their kids to never have to worry about the things I've had to worry about. And that just seems so impossible when I was sitting in those chairs. So because of that, I had no reason to wake up every day. I had no reason to go work 60 plus hours a week. Like, it was just a day by day grind. Like, I was just going with the motions and I was just following life. I wasn't like taking hold of it and taking charge of it. So there's a Bible verse that says those without vision will perish. And I believe if you don't have a vision and if you don't have something to look forward to and wake up to every day, life is going to be like so pointless, and you're just going to keep going in circles, and that, like, it's very important. And once I found that, everything I did was dedicated towards pursuing that. Like, video games were such a waste of time because they were not getting me any closer to my dream. All my friends were going out and drinking and partying and doing drugs. That was not getting me closer to my dream. Like, when I believed that my dreams were possible, my whole life changed and everything was aligned with that. If one decision I made didn't get me closer to that, then I wasn't making that decision.
Powerful. I mean, have any of you felt that way where you, because of lack of vision, just end up scrolling for hours and hours, or because you don't have a purpose, then you don't know where to allot your time? Like, okay, we only get 24 hours. So with a vision, with a plan, you're able to say, well, I don't need to do this. Like, I need to do this. And I've had seasons of my life where if I was doing something, I had a project, a vision, a goal I needed to meet. Everything else would get cut off because it was like, I need to meet this goal, and I would hit that goal every time I had that intentionality and focus. So yeah, without purpose or vision, we perish. We just go by life kind of lost, like Gabrielle was mentioning earlier.
Yeah. Well, that's why I say a lot of you have heard me say the phrase, hard is the new fun. Because when you do get the vision, and it is hard, and nobody likes the should or I should do this, right? We don't like that. Even if we catch the vision, and now it's like, well, I have this vision, but I still want to do gaming and whatever. So when you start to redefine and hone in on your identity, standing on there strong, finding your purpose, now it's exciting. Now, even something hard is worth it and fun. So that's why I say that. Hard is the new fun. Because, listen, athletes, I don't think they want to go to practice every single day at the hours they have to go and all the crazy stuff. But they love the discipline at the end of the day. They love the medal they win. They love the accomplishment and how their body is healthy. So hard could be the new fun, right? Overcoming those things, when she read in the question that it was escape, right? Was it hard to overcome escaping? Would you say that was directly attached to any one specific thing, or did we already cover it?
I would say I was only escaping at that moment because I didn't think my vision was possible. So I was just stuck in a miserable, depressed life. And video games, I wasn't depressed or in a miserable life. I was doing video games. Like, I was not living Tiago's life anymore. It was just, I didn't have to think about everything anymore.
So something clicked over to where you no longer saw it as impossible.
Yeah. Sitting here in one of your camps.
Okay. So getting a big idea, a new big idea.
Yeah,
Finding
just
your
just
identity.
believing my dream is possible, and I don't need rich parents, I don't need college, I don't need a high school degree. Like, something inside of me switched, and then everything outside switched as well, along with that.
Alex, did you want to add on to something? I saw you pointing to your journal, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Well, first off, I want to say congratulations. You definitely had that grit and that grind to just go after it, because I can relate 100%. So remember I told you I had to learn to walk. The days that I did not want to go to the gym or go to therapy and realize, like, oh, I really don't want to do it. Those were the days that I had the best workouts, the best results. So congratulations. That reminds me of a Bible verse, Romans 8:28. It says, all things work for good for those that love him. It didn't say that some things or a few things. It said that all things work for good. So everything you went through gave you that grit, gave you that grind. Everything you went through gave you that ability to realize that, we don't really have a choice. There's only an X and Y chromosome. There is no W chromosome. There is no T chromosome. It's only X and Y. That's it. So everything you want, I'm sorry you went through that. Like, I'm sorry we all went through it, but it built us up to who we are.
Awesome. Do you have another one?
Gabrielle, okay, you mentioned this, also thought it was so powerful. Comparison is a thief of joy, and accepting yourself right now just as God accepts you. Like, you wish you knew that earlier. And then also you said that I'm telling myself that you're telling yourself that right now, and that this part. Live the word, do the word, connect with people, gain fellowship and community like your life depends on it, because it does. How does community affect our lives?
And where did you find that community?
Well, so community is that's integral to human beings. Like, that's how God made the family unit, to be in a small community, and that community connects with other communities. And I never really felt I had much of that growing up. I grew up scattered all over the county. Like, my parents got divorced when those years when you were making friends, and everybody in all my schools knew each other since they were kids. And I didn't, I kind of just outcasted myself, because I didn't really, when you go to a new lunchroom and everybody already knows each other, you just sit by yourself. So I just think that, having that community is integral to, forming relationships with people for the rest of your life and learning who you are as a part of something, because we can't accomplish anything by ourselves. I'm sure you didn't build what you have only by yourself. You grinded in conjunction with other people. You had to have your doctors. You had to know people who brought you out of that mindset, and I also did. And I found community. At first, it was with other young Christians. I didn't go to church for a lot of the beginning of my Christian walk. I had my sister, and she was my Christian, and then I started going to her church and met more people. And then God sent me a therapist who sent me here, and now I have this community, and it has really helped me build up like a sense of wanting to do something. That's been like the question that you asked him. Was it hard to stop escaping? Yes, for me it has been very hard. I didn't have that fire. I was always very comfortable growing up. You know what I mean? I didn't have to fight for anything. So like having that fire, but it's like I don't have that within myself. But seeing everybody else in this community that has that fire and they want to do things and they want to build things for the kingdom and for this planet while we're here and make something of ourselves, that encourages me to go and do that as well. And it's still a struggle. Like I'm not out of the woods on that one. Like I have to make a conscious decision every time I wake up and to get out of bed and like remember Christ and Christ crucified, and like he put me here for a reason. I might not know exactly what that is or what that looks like yet, but I got to keep pushing. Got to keep it cranking.
I just want to touch on that. That's so very real. The people that you connect with, your community, who you're around. Dr. Andrea, he said he was in one of your camps, and that's when he knew that it wasn't impossible to chase his dreams. That's why it's so important to find mentors, to find people that are living with fire and passion and going after bigger things than themselves, because it'll rub off on you. And something they say might impact something within you to say, you know what, if she can do it, if he can do it, he came from what and he's still doing it? He was paralyzed and he's still walking. You can do it too. It doesn't matter what your struggle is. We're all struggling because we're human. This is the human experience. And unfortunately, sin is in the world and bad people are out here. And it's so we are going to experience hardship, but it's still going through it and overcoming no matter what it is. Whatever your struggle is, you can overcome it. And I'm sure you have a question.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, Laura, what's our time on this section? All right, we only are down to 3 more minutes in this first part of the show. Did you enjoy it so far? Yeah, we have a great second half coming up after a brief intermission. But last thought, so in 1 or 2 sentences, what do you wish you knew when you were in high school or college?
One thing I wish I knew was that I have to take 100% ownership of whatever happens.
Okay,
I have to take 100% ownership.
excellent. Tiago.
Nothing is guaranteed, especially if you chose my route and you're a high school or college dropout. A job that's getting you $50,000 a year is not going to fall right into your lap. Like, you have to go out and chase that. If you're out drinking every night or drinking every weekend and doing this, or you have to chase your dreams. Like, it's not going to just come into your lap and fall into place. You have to go make that opportunity.
We had my brother on the podcast recently, and we asked him that, and he said, I wish I would have started younger.
Yeah.
I would tell my younger self, start younger.
And
Don't wait till you're 25, 30, 35, 40. Start younger.
For those of you who do know what you want to do, you were ahead of me already. So, like, chase after that. If that's being a firefighter and going to firefighting school, go get that. Like, don't just keep wasting.
Little plug there. All right, Gabrielle, last thoughts.
I wish I knew Christ. I wish I grew up with a biblical worldview. I feel like
Okay.
that would have rooted out a lot of what I went through early. I wouldn't have had to guess at
Okay.
doctrine to live by. I wouldn't have had
too.
to float. So,
Yep. And Helena.
What I wish I knew when I was younger, or what I could tell my younger self, is if you know what your purpose is, what your passions are, don't let the temptations of the devil steer you away from that. Stand strong, steer forward, and just stay on your path.
Excellent. Well, don't leave yet, guys. So give them a big hand, please. Thank you so much. All of you guys, don't go away.